Hello, friends. I'm Olivia. This is AV Club, and today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I've gotten over the past couple of months. I feel like it hasn't been that long since I last did a book haul, but I had a couple of reasons why there's enough books to pulled together today. One of those reasons is that at the beginning of March, I went to Sydney and got to do some book shopping there, as well as a lot of op shop book finds and a nearly entire long list of prize winners that I got added to my TBR. So today I'm just going to be starting with the books that I got in Sydney. The only brand new book that is on this book haul that I bought full price new is Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor. I am so excited to get to this book. I have previously read not all of the Binti books, but some by her, and this has just been like something that has really appealed to me since I first heard about it. This book follows a disabled, unemployed writer from a judgmental family, and she decides to write a book very unlike her others, a science fiction drama about androids and AI after the extinction of humanity, and everything changes. And I believe there is some kind of stranger than fiction like element to this where what she is writing in her book somehow changes the reality of things. That really appeals to me. I think this is it's a gorgeous looking book, and I'm so pleased at how long it is compared to the Binti books that I read. And I just think that with her level of world building and just this plot really appeals to me. I like reading about writers. I know that a lot of people don't like that, and it's like that's the goal of the writer is to write something new. But I think that this sounds like a winner, and I feel like people really like it. I'm so excited to get to it, and yeah, definitely worth picking up new for me. The next book that I picked up from Sappho Books in Glebe, and which is in Sydney, if you're not a Sydney sider, which is a wholly secondhand bookshop. And it is one of the most beautiful bookshops that I've seen. A whole room of just music and books about music and sheet music, and it's just like this like whole vibey kind of place. There's a cafe there. It's open late. It's nice. But what they also had, and what I really went in there to look for, were books in a foreign language. And one of my reading goals this year is to read a book in French. I read a couple of young adult or middle grade novels last year. Um, I'm really looking to read more in French, and it's kind of hard to just like Google for what might be of interest to me, especially with horror novels. If you look up like French books, French horror books, it's just going to be Stephen King translated into different languages. But I did find a book that really sounded good to me, Le Planetarium by Natalie Sarraute. First of all, that cover is gorgeous. There's not really a synopsis in here, and so it's one of those things where I just like looked it up on Goodreads and read a couple of reviews, and I think it's going to be for me. But this book is from the 50s, first published in French. I'm not even sure if it has a translation into English. However, I think it has to do with, in some way, class consciousness. It might be sci-fi or somehow speculative, and I believe it might be low-key communist. So that appeals to me, and hopefully, I don't know if we're subbing this in for something else on the 25 for 25, but it really is a reading goal this year to read something in French and be reading the kind of books that I like to read in English, but in French rather than it's good to read middle grade novels, I think, but I would just want to spend time with something that's maybe a little bit more rigorous academically than what I have been reading. But if you have any recommendations for me about books that are like, somewhat easy to read in French, especially if they're horror novels or sci-fi, then I am so keen to hear about them. Next are books that I've gotten across several op shops, and the first being The Answers by Catherine Lacey. I actually haven't read a Catherine Lacey book, though I have another one on my shelves, and Pew really appeals to me, but this one is about girlfriend experiment. Out of options, Mary signs up to an audacious experiment masterminded by a troubled Hollywood actor. Mary is to play his emotional girlfriend alongside a maternal girlfriend, an anger girlfriend, and of course, an intimacy team. Each woman has her debts and her difficulties, her past loves and her secrets. When the experiment changes, Mary and the girlfriends find themselves exposed to new perils, foremost among them, love. And a dystopian take on dating is how it's described. I very interested in this because I think it's like literary to some level, and the plot kind of reminds me of Audition, but I don't think it's going to be anything like Audition, but I am excited to find out what it is about. I like something that is feminist dystopian kind of thing, and hopefully give something new to that genre. The next book is Julie Otsuka's The Swimmers, which is a book about grief and loss and mothers and daughters and swimming. And it follows a main character named Alice who swims laps daily at a pool, as her kind of like grounding ritual. And then suddenly the swimming pool has to close for repairs, and the events of the novel take over from there, I believe, about what happens whenever you can't just be in that steady routine every day. So I am keen to get to that. This one, I think it's going to be good for my bedside table reading. Phosphorescence on All Wonder and Things That Sustain You When the World Goes Dark by Julia Baird. I believe that this is an Australian book for one thing, but I believe it is also kind of about the natural world, and maybe like not overly sentimental, I don't think, but things that you can continue to be amazed by in a world that is increasingly dark. And so I think that I like having books that are kind of meditative and about the natural world on my bedside table for like nighttime reading. That's a good idea to me. A beautiful book as well. I like the shimmering foil effects that are on here. So excited to find The Between by Tananarive Due at the op shop. When Hilton was a boy, his grandmother sacrificed her life to save him from drowning. 30 years later, he begins to suspect that he was never meant to survive that accident and that dark forces are working to rectify that mistake. When Hilton's wife, the only elected African American judge in Dade County, Florida, begins to receive racist hate mail from a man she once prosecuted, Hilton becomes obsessed with protecting his family, demons, macabre nightmares. It says with a new preface, so I don't know. Was this something that was published a while ago and has just been republished? Yes, copyright 1995 and then republished in 2021, now that I guess she is a very popular author. So I'm excited to read this. I don't believe that I've actually read a Tananarive Due book, although that I've like kind of kept up with her culturally, and I love seeing her on Boulet Brothers Dragula. She's definitely a scholar in horror, and so I'm excited to see how I get on with her fiction. One that I've been hearing about for a long time is Exit West by Masin Hamid, and this is about, is this speculative? How they describe it sounds speculative, but I don't know that it actually is or if it's metaphorical. It says all over the world, doors are appearing. They lead to other cities, other countries, other lives. And in a city gripped by war, Nadia and Saeed are newly in love. Hardly more than strangers, desperate to survive, they open a door and step through. But the doors only go one way. Once you leave, there's no going back. That sounds speculative, but it also sounds like it could be metaphoric. But I love a little literary novella, and I've heard nothing but good things about this, so definitely excited to get to it. I was just like on a roll at the op shop. She is Haunted by Paige Clark. I believe this is an Australian book as well. And it's from the perspective of a dead narrator. I know lots of things now that I'm dead. Peter from Apartment 2 has a spastic bladder. My former boss Morgan keeps her toenails in a gold jewelry box. My brother and his wife are trying for a baby. I always excuse myself before things get too heated. I don't know much about my mother yet. I'm waiting for grief to catch her, but she mostly seems ashamed of her body, of what it made. This book has piercing insights into transnational Asian identity intergenerational trauma and grief, the dynamics of mother daughter relationships, the inexplicable oddities of female friendship, and the love of a good dog. I love an atypical narrator, and I do love a book about grief. I think maybe I it's all it's all kind of theoretical for me. I think that if I was in a different time of my life, reading about grief would be hard, but right now it's all theoretical, and I really do like those books. Salt by Bruce Pascoe, selected stories and essays. I've previously read Dark Emu by Bruce Pascoe, which is a history of early Aboriginal technology and ecology that has long been overlooked or hidden in Australian history, in greater Australian history, and is an academic in that sense. This collection, it says it's a volume of his best and most celebrated stories and essays collected for the first time, traverses his long career, and explores his enduring fascination with Australia's landscape, culture, and history. The essays are on the thylacine. It's hard to kind of guess what some of these essays are about because they're called things like Embrasure, Dear John, Too Upsetting. So I don't really know what I'm getting into yet, but I like an essay collection. I really like an essay collection, and I would like to read more from him. And then my next six books are all from the Stella Prize longlist. The Stella Prize is an Australian literary prize for women and non binary authors. And I think that they do a really good job of picking out things from different genres, both in fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. It's a really interesting collection. I feel like politically, they pick some pretty interesting things in ways that other prizes do not. And so I read most of the long list, if not the short list, last year. Um, and I kind of want to do the same again, but I'm not pushing myself. I'm just kind of, I got these books, and there's some others that I'm really interested in as well. They all sound great, but I don't know that I'm going to have time to read them before the shortlist comes out, or even before the winner comes out. But I've started with Theory and Practice by Michelle de Kretzer. This is the only book of these that I've actually started so far. And this one is like very interesting structurally. It's my first book by her. And it's like somewhat memoir as well. It's set in 1986 in Melbourne. She lives in St. Kilda. She's researching the novels of Virginia Woolf. It's a lot about academia and being on campus talking about theory versus praxis so separating out the ideas of like what could something mean versus like actually doing them. And I am really interested in so far. I'm kind of flying through it, and I think that I feel like it's going to make the short list. Is that crazy to say? It's my first book that I've started, and I'm only halfway through, and I think it will. But I really like it, really getting on with it. I'll have more to say about it later once I've actually finished it. Oh my gosh, this whole short list sounds so good. Black Witness by Amy McQuire, The Power of Indigenous Media, a collection of essays on why the media needs to believe Black witnesses, talking about her career over the past 2 decades, reporting on key events involving Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, including deaths in custody, Palm Island uprising, the Bowerville murders, and the Northern Territory intervention, misrepresentations and violence of mainstream media's reports, as well as omissions and silences altogether in regards to Indigenous matters. I think that this is going to be such a good read, especially because for me personally, I missed any kind of reporting on these matters. And so I think being able to read it from an Indigenous perspective is a good way to learn about them for the first time. Next book is Black Convicts: How Slavery Shaped Australia. This is the story of Australia's Black convicts who have been all but erased from Australian history. The author is recovering their lives, offering a fresh understanding of this fatal shore, showing how empire, slavery, race, and memory have shaped our nation. I truly did not know that there was a history of slavery in Australia. So again, this is like revelatory for me. I'm really excited that there's this kind of nonfiction on the shortlist this year. It's saying like even things about some of the lives are documented and their likenesses hang in places like the National Portrait Gallery, but even their descendants are often unaware of their existence. So definitely a whitewashed history, injustice of dispossession driven by the engine of labor exploitation. So excited to get to this. Emily Maguire's Rapture. Oh my gosh, that cover is so beautiful. It's about the motherless child of an English priest living in 9th century Mainz. Agnes is a wild and brilliant girl with a deep, visceral love of God. She's she wants to avoid a future as a wife or nun and enlisting the help of a lovesick Benedictine monk to disguise herself as a man and devote her life to the study she is denied as a woman. So then she's living as a man. I had only read like the first couple sentences, and now this seems a lot more interesting to me. That's so sad to say, that I didn't even read the full synopsis. But I did check it out because I assumed it would be good if it was on the short list. Or I assumed it would be good if it was on the long list, but it's talking about like political intrigue, gossip is a powerful and deadly currency. I love a hidden identity. I think this is going to be so good too. This is all I have to say about all of these. They all sound like so incredible in their own way. The next book is Always Will Be by Michaela Saunders, and this, I believe, is a short story collection, a speculative short story collection. In this inventive and thought-provoking collection, Michaela Saunders poses a question: what might country, community, and culture look like if First Nation sovereignty was asserted? So it's set in its own future version of the Tweed. In one, a group of girls plot their escape from an institution they have no memory of entering. In another, two men make a final visit to the country they love as they contemplate a new life in a faraway place. Post invasion Australia writes First Nation futures an extension of the possible, not the impossible. That sounds really good. I love it. I'm so pleased with this long list. And the last one that I have checked out, but there are definitely some others, and even like the ones that sound the best to me, I don't have yet. So we're just gonna see how much of this we can read. A Language of Limbs by Dylan Hardcastle. The first love of a teenage girl is a powerful thing, particularly when the object of that desire is her best friend, also a girl. It's the kind of power that could implode a family, a friendship, a life. On a quiet summer night in Newcastle, 1972, a choice must be made: to act upon these desires or suppress them, to live an openly queer life or to try desperately not to. And then it follows 3 decades after that, and their lives ebbing and flowing. Ugh, I love that kind of book. I'm so excited to get to this. Like, what if the short list, long list, what if the long list even sounds best to you? Because this sounds just like the most incredible collection, and I hope I can get to all of them. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I hope I can get to all of them. I'm already halfway through the first one, and I started yesterday. So we're on track to read them sometime this year. I can even keep reading them after the prize winners are announced. Hard to say that you can fail a reading challenge and still read the books. But those are all the books that I've gotten recently. Let me know if you've read any of them. If you would like to read any of the Stella Prize long list books with me, please let me know, because I'm definitely prioritizing them now. But I will talk to y'all again soon about some books. The next thing on my horizon is we have recorded for my podcast No Cartridge. We've recorded today an episode looking at James by Percival Everett in conversation with Halo 2 by Bungie, and that episode will be coming out next week, and I'm so excited. So if you're interested in books and video games, definitely the link to the podcast is down below, or you can look at some of our GGNoReread, which is the sub-series that includes books, in the backlist. So I will talk to y'all again soon. Please join me in the comments. I'd love to have a chat, and yeah, I'll see you later. Bye.